Dynatron. I love Dynatron. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please make yourself at home. Here we are on a Wednesday night after another grueling day at the office, which is me sitting right in this chair since God knows how. Did I walk outside today? Yes, I did. I had to make a stop with Aurora. We had to go pick up tomato salad early this morning, and I got her an egg sandwich that she likes. By the way, she's doing fine. Aurora's doing fine. Thank you guys and gals for all of the concern of the audience, and of course all the experienced parents in the audience. You really gave Lauren and I a great deal of comfort last night, because it was just crazy to see that lump just show up in 15 seconds. And I stayed up for most of the night watching her on the baby monitor just to make sure that she moved every couple of minutes, So there was that. And she woke up fine, bouncing around, doesn't have any signs of concussion. So thankfully, we created a hard head. I guess she got it from me. That's it. Yeah, Lauren has a soft head. She has a little bit more of a softer skull. She got the gabadost, got the hard head from me. Anyway, so welcome to the show. This is going to be a good one tonight. We've got Tony Merkel coming on. Tony is the host of the Confessionals podcast. That link is in the description, theconfessionalspodcast.com. It's a show which explores the mysterious, the unexplained, and ponders how it may fill in all of the gaps of our understanding, our strange earthly home over here. And it's very, very popular podcast, and it only continues to grow because he does so many wonderful he has so many wonderful ventures, especially in filmmaking outside of the show, that is interview based on the paranormal. We're going to be talking about UFO disclosure patterns in the media tonight, abduction theories, cryptids, portals, and a few other interrelated topics. It is all interrelated because when you think about it, it really has a lot to do with the unseen world, which seems to be, enmeshed with ours, but not always visible. Well, anyway, most of the topics and most of the questions that came in tonight and made it into the notes came from the audience. So it's going to be for you guys. It's going to be from you guys. Thank you guys for helping me produce the show tonight. Thank you, Blue Monster Prep, for sponsoring the show. As always, many people still get in touch with me. Said, Frank, thank you so much for bringing on people like Blue Monster Prep. They're wonderful people. They're parts of the audience, and there's plenty of you out there, thousands of you out there, who have already stocked up things in their homes, their fallback locations. They got new first aid cabinets, new first aid kits, everything. The radios, the solar power. That's one thing I still have to do, is the solar power, but that's who the hell knows where it all goes, right? As long as you got a little bit to eat, as long as you can plug a sucking chest wound. I don't know how long you can do that for. Plug me. Anyway, there's that. BlueMonsterPrep.com. Promo code Frankly. Also, the Quite Frankly Elevation Blend. There's going to be something interesting announced by the end of the week. The mugs are in. These are gorgeous. Handmade. They've been getting handmade for the last month and a half. Okay? Handmade. So now there is an official Quite Frankly mug. There was a variety a couple of months ago. Well, no more variety. Now it's the official Quite Frankly mug, and it is so beautiful looking. And I'll tell you all about that soon. All right. Let me see here. That's all I got for you. So let's just jump into some grab bag. That's what I want. The grab bag. Oh, hold on. There you go. Let me get this. And boom. That's what we're listening to right now. Espresso del Lago, Falling Man. It's a chill song that I've loved for many years. I loved a lot more than this woman loved her date, who she stabbed 100 times to death. This is from the Daily Mail. Although you wouldn't know it because it's buried under ads. Woman, 33 years old. There's that 33 number again. I'm sure people like Tony pay very, very special attention to that. Woman 33 who stabbed her date 100 times in a, listen to this, a weed-induced, a cannabis-induced frenzy. I don't know about you, ladies and gentlemen, but it has been getting harder and harder for me to resist weed-induced desire to kill the last couple of years. That's why I've been smoking less, because the desire to stab people hundreds of times has been getting a little bit harder and harder to ignore. Weed-induced frenzy is sentenced to, get this, 100 hours of community service. Stabbed a man to death 100 times. And she gets 100 hours of community service as a judge says that she had no control over her actions after cannabis caused a psychotic break. Her date, another 33-year-old, his name is Brian, was killed. Oh, wait, no, that's her. Bryn. Oh, gosh. Spectre. Killed Chad O'Melia, then 26, after hitting a bong. She took a bong rip and then she stabbed him 100 times. This is just incredible. The victim's family cried when the verdict was given and warned that it gave everyone who smokes marijuana in this state a license to kill. How this is being made about, this is ridiculous. Almost as ridiculous as the sentence. That is 1 hour of community service per stab wound. So I guess you can't say that they went easy on her. An hour per, it should have been a year per stab wound. Damn patriarchy, I swear. But that's just incredible. And what the hell is his issue? Was he ambushed? Was he on a couch? I couldn't find anything. Was he on a couch? Was he not facing her? How did she rip off 100 stab wounds without having anything? I don't know. This thing really makes me feel odd inside. Very odd. Wonder what the hell he was up to. I don't want to be in that position. But still. All right. Now, here's another thing. We had another primary last night. I have to comment on this real quick before we get to everything really kicked off. We had another primary last night, and we were actually able to, again, announce a winner pretty quick, and it was Donald Trump. Now, Trump won by, as it stands right now, at least 10 points. But if we're only Republicans voting, without the troll factor, which is what is being really dived into right now, what would the margin be? 55, 60%? CNN put this into perspective. CNN, just think about this, because this is stuff that we have to start filing under the Time Magazine election fortification stuff. Listen to CNN. This is provided by the Daily Caller. A whopping 70% of Nikki Haley's voters in New Hampshire primary weren't registered Republicans. They weren't, but they showed up anyway to try to bring it to Donald Trump. It's all such a joke. Listen. Oh, hold on a second. Let me turn this down. Let me put this up. Great.
Might play out. Let's go back to David Chalian with that. And David, you're getting more on the ways that Republican primary voters don't see eye to eye?
Yes, that's right, Jake. In these exit poll results, you see a Mars and Venus universe for Haley and Trump coalitions here. Take a look at the numbers. Among Trump voters, 70% of them, according to our exit polls, are registered Republicans. Donald Trump, his support, 27% of his voters are registered undeclared.
Which is on par. Because as we were seeing all throughout 2000, especially after 2016, once he had some time in office, we were seeing that at least 30% of the people who were attending his rallies were at least former Democrats or currently registered Democrats that just changed, but people who were in exodus.
Or independents. 3% were unregistered before today. Look at how that compares with Nikki Haley. It's a complete reversal. It's an alternate universe. Among Haley voters, 70% are registered undeclared. Only 27% are registered Republicans.
So what would that mean? What does that mean? that means that a whole shitload of Democrats are voting in these open primaries to try to troll and try to do everything they can to, again, just make sure that something unethical and uncanny happens. That's it. They really put it into perspective. Open primaries are a joke, especially with the current culture that we have. Now, I don't see conservative type voters, call them Republicans, call them whatever the hell you want. I don't see non-progressives even being willing to put in that kind of physical effort for a Democrat primary. We're more prone to sit back and watch their debates and crack jokes and make memes and all that other stuff. But this kind of physical effort, no. This is the kind of stuff you see coming out of the Democrat Party primarily, because their whole party platform is akin to obsessive ex-lovers who would happily set their alarms to 3 o'clock in the morning so that they can remind themselves to get out of bed and to go and key your car. Okay? Switching their party affiliations to vote for Snow Miser in New Hampshire, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to these lunatics, what they're willing to do. Okay? And here's another one, another CNN interview. Just putting it all out there. CNN interview with a guy, one of those Democrat stink bomb voters. Listen to this. Here's a guy who just pretty much said, this is what I'm doing.
Nikki Haley.
And why did you vote for Nikki Haley?
It's a vote against Trump. I think it would be better to have her against Biden in the elections than it would be Trump and her.
Do you consider yourself generally independent, Republican, or Democrat?
Democrat.
So when you undeclared, you voted for Nikki Haley. If it was Nikki Haley against Joe Biden in a general election, who are you voting for?
Joe Biden.
Now this is the type of guy who would let a woman stab him 100 times without breaking a fucking kitchen chair over her head. Okay? Or at least trying to. No doubt about it. My gosh. Our friend of the show, Chillum, she's out there. She put this together, said primary pivot. Little bit of highlight on this. One last thing but we do before we go to the break and we bring on Tony Merkel. Primary pivot has already moved over 3,500 Democrats to undeclared status in just under 1 week before New Hampshire. So they can vote for Nikki Haley and stop Donald Trump. This was on January 19th. All right? Just wanted to put that out there, just so you know how much of a joke this all is. So you can add this to the Time Magazine election fortification pile. It is just romanticizing this coalition of government and media and the corporate world and grassroots activism, which is the only anything but organic, just to make sure that elections are fair by ensuring that only one side is capable of winning. That's just what it is. That's why it's being covered so proudly on CNN. It normalizes unethical behavior that is most certainly a precursor to criminal behavior come the fall. All right? You can say, okay, well, there's nothing criminal about undeclaring yourself and then going and, voting in an open primary or whatever the hell. Nothing criminal about it. Certainly unethical. So people who do this are not only fine with cheating, but they're actually convinced of the nobility of cheating. Just want to say it's all a joke, and these people are psychopaths. We'll be right back with Tony Merkel. Enjoy the show. I know it's going to be a good one. BRB.
I refuse to go along with this, and I'd see through all of your lies, Barack Obama, you wicked, wicked devil!
You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
hello. Welcome. You know, it's been a little time. It's been a little time since we've been able to get into some paranormal stuff. And I can't wait to do it again now that we're in the dead of winter. And we spoke with Tony Merkel not too long ago because Tony came on the show in December to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, and that's the first time that you guys and gals got to see a little bit of Tony Merkel on this show. But though he and I have been speaking for a while at that point, and Tony is the host, as I said before, of the Confessionals podcast, which has amassed over, get this, 32 million downloads in the last 6 years. Quite a feat. I don't actually know how many downloads I have or views, because I've had to wipe out my YouTube account so many times over the last 8 years. I'm probably down to like 100,000 views. So that's the official number. Drawing a dedicated weekly audience of 35,000 to 40,000 listeners, and his show explores the mysteries of the unexplained, from Bigfoot to Dogman encounters to UFO sightings, abductions, and the reality of portals and other dimensions, and even traditional hauntings, which is I really love getting into that. So it makes the entire thing a must listen, and I have enjoyed his friendship over the last couple of years, and here he is tonight. Tony, how you feeling?
Feeling good. Thanks for having me, man. This has been a long time coming.
It absolutely has, you know, and it was great to have that, 5 minutes with you over the Christmas, the lead up to Christmas. But now that we get a little bit of time to stretch out here, let everybody know, and I would like to know too, because I know you started off in, I think you said in shipping, trucking, that you're on the road. At least you were doing something construction related or anything like that. But whatever the hell you were doing, it's a long ways away from what you're doing now. So tell us about how you finally gave yourself over to being not only self-employed, but really pinning yourself down inside the new media.
Oh man, it's been a journey. It's been a journey. Quite honestly, it's been a supernatural journey. And I mean that full-heartedly. 7 years ago now, January 19th, 2017 is when I dropped my first episode. And leading up to that day, back in 2016, I was driving my tractor trailer through Philadelphia. I used to live in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, that area. And I was driving my truck into Germantown Pike. And I don't even think I was praying, to be honest with you. I just felt the Holy Spirit speak to me and tell me that I was going to be a podcaster and that I was going to work alongside of Wes Germer from Sasquatch Chronicles, which is a very large podcast. And I never talked to Wes. I didn't know him. I knew his podcast, but as far as Wes goes, I didn't know him. And per my tradition and habit, I went home that night and I just told my wife, I said, hey, I feel like God's telling me this, and I just want to let you know because you're my witness. Because usually it happens. So like when I would feel like God's telling me something, it would happen. And so I got in the habit of telling my wife, just so that she's the second person to witness it. So it's not just me saying it. And about a month later, I was back in my tractor trailer into a dock at work. I was getting ready to go home for the night. It was about 8:30, I'd say, 8:30. And I get a Facebook Messenger phone call, and it's from Wes Germer. And I'm like, what the heck?
And you guys did not know each other prior to in any way, shape, or form?
Never talked to the guy. Never talked to him. I had a Facebook group at the time looking into Bigfoot stuff, and I venture to think that he found out about my Facebook group and saw that I was running it, wanted to contact me because one of his first questions was, "Hey, I would love to have you on the show to talk to me to tell your Bigfoot encounter." And I'm like, "Sucks to be you. I've never had a Bigfoot encounter, you know." And we talked for like 45 minutes. And in that first conversation, he was telling me how he thought I'd be a good podcaster. And I was just like, well, I already knew you were going to say that. I didn't tell him that, but I did engage in the conversation. I started planning the path, and he was like, yeah, man, like I'll help you. I'll tell you where to put your podcast. I'll tell you what to do with it and all that stuff. Cause I was like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I'll help you. And that's what he did. And so on the 19th of January, 2017, I started the podcast. I launched my first episode, and it's been an evolutionary process since then. When I first started the podcast, I didn't really know what direction I was going to go with it. I was kind of into the Bigfoot topic at the time, and we did more of that than not. in the beginning, but as time went on, it just evolved into a monster of, talking about upright walking dogs, portals, interdimensional shifts, and all the crazy. The crazier, the better. But yeah, I was a truck driver, man, in Philadelphia, and just living my life. And I really thought I was just going to be a trucker. My dad's a trucker. I got my CDL when I was 21. I floated in and out of the industry. And then when I was about 27, 28, I dedicated myself to it. I was like, I'm just gonna be a truck driver. And that's what I was gonna do. Is a good, honest living. It sucks in the sense that you have to work so many hours. You don't see your family. You kind of watch the whole world pass you by. You're literally looking out a window for a living, watching the whole world pass you by. And for an extroverted person like me that always felt like inside I was meant for something more, it was soul sucking. And I wound up hating my life. I was depressed a lot. And then this happened, and I just jumped in with it, and it slowly took off. It took off, but it slowly took off. I'm one of those classic cases of just, you keep your head down, you keep grinding, just don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't look around the room. Don't try to figure out what everybody else is doing. Just do you, figure it out, and go. And that's what I did. I treated it like a job. I would drive 12, 14 hours a day during the day. I'd come home, I'd kiss my wife. For the first year of podcasting, we didn't have any kids. And so I just would kiss her, go upstairs to the third bedroom that I made my little makeshift studio in. And I would just sit in front of the computer a lot of times, just not knowing what to do, just knowing that I didn't want to waste time. And one thing that I heard Rogan talk about was putting yourself in the environment to be creative. And so I was like, okay, let me adopt that. And so I would just sit down in front of the computer. I'm like, I don't know what to do tonight, but we got to figure something out. And I'd start Googling how to become a better podcaster. I'd start figuring out how to network. And next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I got to get up at 6 for work. And that was on repeat for years. And you just keep grinding at it. And it's not pretty, but it got me out of trucking, which is great.
Well, it's crazy because everybody can take different routes, but you have to go through the same trials, especially if you're in anything like this, a broadcast business, or if you're presenting a program of any kind to somebody. It's I really appreciate that idea of creating a place that you can be creative in. That's number one. But I love how you got the focus thing down, because I can see how you can feel a little bit more to be in tune like that, to be able to get anything from what you believe or what you know is divine intervention. I really enjoyed that part of your story, to be able to know that, God is communicating with you, and to be able to go home and communicate that with your wife and have it be an act of, witnessing something. Is that something that has always been very important for you guys? Has religion and faith been a big part of your life, or is that something that has cropped up in adulthood?
I was raised in the church. My wife became a Christian when she was like 12. But even though I was raised in the church and she was introduced to God at a little bit of an older age, she's been a Christian longer than me. I was raised in the church. I lived in the shadow of my parents. Lived on their spiritual crutches for a long time. I just kind of adopted, I'm a Christian because my parents are Christians. And I even went to Bible college because I didn't know what else to do with my life. So I figured, hey, I'll be a pastor and work 1 day a week. How hard could it be? And I absolutely hated it. I wound up dropping out and just kind of floated around in my adult life. We got married at 21. I'm 38 now. But like I just kind of worked on cars, floated around with different entrepreneurial endeavors, in and out of driving trucks and commercial vehicles. And I got to a point where a friend of mine, and I just want to say, feel free to cut me off if I go too long for you here. But I got to a point where a friend of mine said that, he was a college basketball coach, and he got me into coaching. And so I started coaching college basketball for junk money. And in that period of time, I got really in shape, and I started working out a lot and started feeling myself a little too much. And I got involved with women that I shouldn't have been involved with. And I turned my back on any kind of want with my faith, and was trying to purposely tank my marriage because I was a coward, and I didn't want to divorce my wife because then I was in the wrong. So I was trying to get her to divorce me. I was a mess for years. And And then I had a radical experience at a funeral one day, and I walked out of that church a changed person. I had a one-on-one encounter with God, and ever since then, you can't tell me there's not a God, and you can't tell me anything. You can't shake me off of it. Like you could present the most sound, theologically, philosophically driven argument that God doesn't exist, Jesus Christ isn't the Son of God. You're not going to shake me on it. I'll just be a grumpy old man that's like, no, you're not changing my mind on it. I know what I've experienced, and it's come true so many times. And so through that process, of just finally for the first time in my life leaning into God and really wanting to understand my maker, knowing that I'm never going to truly fully understand him. He's omnipotent. He's too big for me to fathom. I wanted to try, and I would just dive deeper and deeper into the word. And through that process, I started hearing the Holy Spirit, and I didn't really recognize it at first as the Holy Spirit. It took a time where I was driving truck, and I felt like I feel like I should invite my boss, my terminal manager, to church for Easter Sunday. I was like, I ain't doing that. Like, if I invite him and he says no, it's kind of awkward. So I didn't invite him. And then the following week after Easter, I was talking to another driver at work who was a Christian, and he's like, yeah, our boss Jason, he's been looking for a church to go to. And right there, just like clicked in my head. I was like, when I feel that inside, that's the Holy Spirit. It was like I had to go through that process of discovery. And once I learned how to hear the Holy Spirit and recognize when the Holy Spirit was speaking to me, all bets were off. And I just as stubborn as I am in my faith in Christ, when I felt like the Holy Spirit was speaking to me, when I had that happen, whenever I would have that happen, I was just like, it's going to happen.
Synchronicity goes off the charts when you get into that zone, and when you're in that presence, and you bring yourself there. And whatever that source, a lot of people, they spend a lot of time trying to customize the way that they describe it. But it really always comes back to the same thing for me. And I'm on the same page as you. And I really appreciate that, to be able to contemplate where life takes you. I think about where I was 10 years ago, even just 10 years ago, and that is 7 years before my daughter was born. And that no matter how many life changes goes on in your life, then there is just like BC and AD is before child and after child. Yeah. I mean, everything changes again there. So to hear that about where you were before and where you are now, it's miraculous, and I'm totally down with it. And I was going to ask you about your own paranormal experiences, but you already said I didn't have a Bigfoot experience. It looks like you're like me, where I love collecting the stories of people who have, and try to really like plug in the gaps of our understanding of what's going on in the world. And as you also said about God, we could do what we can to try to bring ourselves into a little bit more alignment with what is morally right and just in the way that we live our lives. But how can you really fathom the true understanding of what the universe is? And in there is my biggest question to kick off our paranormal discussions tonight, because especially in communities of faith, I mean, the one that I'm closest to is Christianity. There is a lot of split on what the nature of the paranormal, the supernatural is, whether or not there are aliens that are in intergalactic space, or are they interdimensional? Are they aliens at all? Are they angels and demons? Is it all biblical, or is there a mix of a whole bunch of things? What the hell is Bigfoot? I mean, there's so much split in there. How do you navigate? Through that stuff? Because you have such a wide array of subject matter that you cover that is usually rejected out of hand by a lot of people of faith.
Yeah, it's been an evolutionary process for the last 7 years. When I first started doing this stuff, I was going to a church that was pretty mainstream type of Christianity, which is what I needed at the time. I don't know if I was ready for anything else, to be honest with you. And so I think that there's different churches for different types of people in that sense. Like I think as long as they're preaching Jesus Christ, Son of God, the gospel kind of thing, the way, because I mean some churches are designed for people who are more new believers, and some are for senior believers that are kind of like, let me give me the meat and potatoes. I don't need the cupcake stuff.
Yeah.
And so when I first started, talking about this stuff, I'll tell you what, man. I came out of my Bigfoot closet. I was quiet about it for a long time. The only people that knew about it was my wife and my parents. Nobody knew because I was like, I'm not trying to talk about this stuff. And it was just like my own little guilty pleasure. And a guy at work found my Facebook stuff and he outed me. And I was like, okay, here we go. But it was the worst. Like, but I started talking about it with people at church, and people were kind of perceptive as, oh, Tony's a weird guy. Okay, like it was just like whatever. But the thing that I always think about when people ask me similar questions is one Sunday I was standing with people before church. It was a church plant, so we were kind of just setting up the chairs and kind of getting everything together, and we were wrapping that part up. And the worship band was on stage practicing. Well, those people were done. They came down. This one kid, and I do call him a kid, he was like 20, probably not even 20 years old. He came down off the stage. He was leading worship that day, and he kind of came over to us and started listening to the conversation, and he heard me talking about Bigfoot. And he like scoffed at me, and he goes, "Wait, you actually believe in Bigfoot?" And the way I can't even say it the way he said it. It was so condescending.
Yeah.
And I thought I just wanted to grab him by the hair and slam him to the ground kind of thing. Like I the love of Christ was not in me there. Because the way he was talking to me, I was like, kid, here's the thing, man. And I didn't say this to him. I just kind of brushed it off. But I was like thinking to myself, we're literally standing in a church getting ready to worship a God we never laid eyes on. And the reason why we say we believe he exists is because we say we feel him in our heart and we read about him in a book. And you're telling me I'm crazy because people say they see an upright walking hairy creature out in the woods, which resembles something like a gorilla, only a little bigger. And we also know Gigantopithecus actually existed in recent history. Like I'm the disgusting crazy person. I was so angry, and I started getting that kind of commentary towards me over time, and it kind of pushed me away for a while. And I was just kind of like, you know what? I don't need these people. I can grow spiritually on my own. I don't need to be incorporated into a body. If this is where they're going to treat me and talk to me because of my interests and stuff, I'm out. And I left, and that was a mistake. I'm back in church now. But I think that the modern Christian church, they're starting to, and from my experience, I think they're starting to change. I think they're being forced to. But for a long time, they divorced themselves from the supernatural aspects of their creator. They want to talk about the cupcake stuff, the easy stuff that everybody can kind of come to understand and agree on. Jesus Christ, he's Son of God. He died. He rose 3 days later, defeated death, walked amongst men, ascended into heaven because he's God. Like that's comfort zone. When you start asking questions about Genesis 6 and these Nephilim creatures and fallen angels having sex with women and all this stuff that you just isn't talked about, people don't really know how to comprehend that. And I don't want to blame them because I didn't at one time either. My conclusion over these years of looking at this stuff is I just think that overall, a large portion of, at least let's just say, the Western American Christian church has divorced themselves from acknowledging the absolute supernatural essence of their creator and how he tied it into creation. And I just don't agree with it. And I'm fortunate that when I moved to Tennessee, I walked into a church, and finding a church for me is very difficult because I got to find a church that I like. And then I got to introduce myself to the pastor and leadership and say, hey, this is who I am. Are you okay with what I do for a living? Because if not, I got to know now. I walked into the church and this lady starts showing me around. I walked into the sanctuary and this guy comes walking over to me, shakes my hand, And he says, "Hi, I'm Jerry. I'm the pastor of the church." And I said, "Hi, I'm Tony Merkel. This is my family." And he goes, "I thought that was you. I subscribed to your YouTube channel." It's like,
All right.
I'm home.
We're good.
I'm home.
We're good. I found it.
So yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I answered your question there, but yeah, I
No,
think that
it
I think it's
answered.
natural.
You,
Yeah, I think
you
it's
answered it
natural.
very well. It's one of those things I see happening a lot there too, where you're saying that people are being forced to face this stuff now. Well, if I were to go back 15 years, where we were already doing what we're doing with the live streaming for a couple of years at that point. It really came down to, especially when we were talking about UFOs or the idea of something in the sky that is of non-human origin or anything like that. You would get people to say, "Yeah, I believe it. I think that probability is on our side. That in a universe this large, that we're not the only organic, carbon-based life forms that have had the divine breath, breathed into them, or that we were the first, or whatever the hell else." And then there is secret space programs. Where did that come from? All this other stuff. There was a lot less consideration. A lot more people were just checked out. And then to your point about, especially people of faith or churches or congregations being made to face that there is something going on that has either been hidden from us or is now just being revealed through one method or another in the skies and elsewhere, that there's something going on up there, but it must be demons or it must be aliens or angels and nothing in between. So just the fact that the goalposts have been moved to, well, it's just demons and angels out there in their celestial, vehicles doing their thing, and it's remnant technology from the biblical, the battles of, Genesis and all that. It's interesting to see those goalposts just getting moved to where now it's being acknowledged, and we're going through all of the explanations that really just make people comfortable, keep them in that comfort zone, the cupcake zone, as you said before. So I've been really having a lot of fun with that there too. And there's plenty of derision, there's plenty of judgment that is cast, and you just got to put up with it. But like you said, as long as you find yourself a nice home, you can deal with all the craziness outside of those four walls, because at least you have stability on the inside. And that's pretty cool. And I'm glad I asked you about this stuff. This is really cool to know.
Yeah, I listen, man. One thing I learned over the years, early on, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to be as a podcaster, and I think a lot of people who do what we do go through that one way or another, trying to understand what kind of character I want to be on air, and what do I want to represent, and like, what do I want to project myself to be. Early on, I tried being more journalistic with everything I do and ask the right question, and it's just not me. I'm not a journalist. You're a fantastic interviewer. I've been listening to you since I've been driving truck, and like I realize I'm more of a conversationalist.
Mm-hmm.
In being a conversationalist, I just need to be myself. And I figured, you know what? If that's not enough and this sinks the ship, then maybe that's it. And maybe I'm either misread the cards or God had fulfilled his purpose, And but what I found out was, by being myself, opening up, and just having fun, and not taking myself too serious, not trying to be anything I'm not. People seem to gravitate towards it, and a lot of people have come. And this is, for me personally, the most significant thing. It's not what I set out thinking it would happen, but through a paranormal podcast and me just being myself authentically and speaking about my faith when it's relevant, a lot of people have come to Christ through the podcast, which for me has been just a phenomenal thing. I'll tell you a real quick story, and I'll let you take us away somewhere else. But there's a couple in Australia that I like telling the story, because he was listening to my show. And Australia is a very secular nation, and he's listening to this podcast, paranormal podcast. That's what he's into. And he finds out that I'm a Christian. I just say things here and there on my show. Like, I don't set out to preach, but if somebody says something about God and they bring it up, we'll talk about it. And through that, he started feeling like, hey, you know what? Maybe I want to start going to church. And he goes to church, and he, in church, finds salvation through Christ, goes home to his girlfriend, and he's like, listen, this is what's going on. And he invites her to church with him. And then she goes to church, and then she becomes a Christian, and they're both listening to my podcast. And then they go home and they start feeling convicted because they're living together unmarried, and they go get married. And then after they get married, they're like, you know what? We want to dive more into the word. And so they go to Bible college. And last I heard, they're in Bible college together, studying to be in the ministry. And it's all started because he's listening to a paranormal podcast in America. And for me, like those kind of stories, that's the most satisfying thing for me. And so, yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably why it's happening. And this is why God kind of put me in this position, because maybe it's more unique than I think it is or should be, where people just kind of be themselves and let God do what God does.
Oh, I'm with you 100%. And you know, because you've been doing it, you know, in 3 years you'll be doing this for 10 years already. And I you know just as well as I do that there's so many things that go on behind the scenes with people reaching out, the craziest things that you do that you don't even pay attention to, that really touches somebody in a way that sets them off down a path. And I've had those situations, and it feeds back into you and makes you double down. I mean, just yesterday, you know, if it weren't for the direction that my show had gone in with the people that have come on, I've become friends with, the topics we've discovered and explored. My wife and I just yesterday we sat down with a priest I know who has been preparing us to actually get married again on our anniversary sacramentally now, because when we got married in 2017, you know, we had the pastor that showed up, but it was at a golf course, and we took our vows and we took those very seriously. But now it's about the sacrament, and now it's about rearing children in the church, and that's something that is so alien to me. But at the same time, I feel like I'm plugging into a source that is, I mean, I need more of it, and and that just, so it not only, it creates this continual feedback loop where you know that people are getting something, and in turn it feeds back into your life, and it's just mutually beneficial. And I know that you know what that feels like now. So this was wonderful. Let me ask you this now, since we have set the stage for why we talk about the weird shit that we do. Yeah. I got an email. It's usually what it comes down to. The emails are the best part of the job. Hey, Frank, I'm listening to last night's episode. This was a couple of weeks ago. Another banger, by the way. And I came up to the end where you got into the alien abduction topic. Tony Merkel, who I've heard you both shout each other out recently, has some good insight on this based on conversations he had with L.A. Marzulli, who proposed that the cattle mutilation phenomenon is tied to a breeding program, which I thought was a very interesting idea. I think either would be good guests to discuss the topic if you can get them on. Well, you're here tonight. So he said the basic theory is that our government was offered the same deal that was offered in Genesis 6, and our military-industrial complex got weapons and technology in exchange for a new Nephilim breeding program, that so Satan can have an army in the upcoming Armageddon. Now, this is from Brian Mullaney that wrote into that. I wanted to throw that at you to get your opinion, but tie it into what Tucker Carlson was saying at the tail end of December of last year, where he made several appearances to talk about the UFO phenomenon and how he was too spooked about what the implications of it were to even talk about it and discuss it with his wife, that he believes it's spiritual and ancient in origin. So I want to just throw that out your way, and we can start picking this one apart. What do you think that is all about?
Well, I think he's right. I think it is spiritual and ancient in origin, and it's nice to know that they're finally catching up. So I had L.A. Marzulli on the show a few weeks back, and I do want to say this. I came out with an episode 400 something. I mean, I'm now in the 600s. But it was called Nephilim Portal Babies. And this idea has been in my inner circle for a while now. My friend Joel Thomas has been talking about this idea. I think he calls them meat sacks, but this idea of this interdimensional Nephilim hybrid breeding program for future warriors. And we've been talking about this for a while. So when LA mentioned it to me on the show, I nearly flipped, because I was like, hold on. You mean that's real? You know,
Yeah.
it's like, it was like, hold on a second. Cause sometimes I'm on the show and we just like, I'm telling you, man, I just let it rip. I'm just like, the weirder, the better. Let's see how weird we can make this conversation. And, we, through these conversations though, we start getting a foundation as to what we think might be going on here. So to go back to your guest that emailed in, LA came on the show. And the gist of the show was that he believes, I think he fell short of saying that, he knows, but he strongly believes, and I agree with him, that there is much more deeper, darker, sinister things happening with cattle mutilations than just some kind of weird phenomenon that's sucking the blood out of these animals. Like, I mean, if you think about probably the most popular thought on cattle mutilations is more than likely, if you're trying to do the logical way of doing things, is probably it's some kind of black ops operation and they're testing new technology. Problem with that is it's been happening for far too long, and they don't need to do that. They can just have their own weird black ops ranch somewhere with their own cattle, and they can suck the blood out of them all over. They don't need to do it to some random rancher in Utah and then in Texas. It seems like we're missing something, and I'm just going to get weird with you and your audience for you.
Do it.
We believe that there is an ancient race of fallen angels that are creating hybrid beings, Nephilim, for a future war, a future battle of Armageddon, the end times kind of thing, and so LA has a much better way of breaking it down, but he believes that the bovine blood is what the key is, because they're using that to foster embryos in another realm. And he has people who have come forward, and I just this past Tuesday, it's ironic that you bring this up, just this past Tuesday, this Tuesday, I had a lady on, her name's Karen, and she is somebody who has documented evidence that she was pregnant, and then she's no longer pregnant.
This is it.
There's no sign of her being pregnant, and it happened multiple times.
How old is she?
She's probably in her 50s now.
Did she ever do give any of her testimony to somebody like Dr. David Jacobs?
Possibly. I know she's been making her rounds. Her name's Karen Wilkinson.
Okay.
Yeah. So and this happened multiple times for her, and each time there's just no proof that she was ever even pregnant. And but she also has a lifelong history of alien abductions. I mean, she talks about having experiences where the abduction starts and she's lifted out her bed, I think when she was a child, and being brought towards the window, and she just literally materializes through the window. The window doesn't open up. She just kind of goes right through it. And so she came on and told her story about how this all kind of unfolded for her and these different experiences. And she's been working closely with LA. In fact, she just came out with a book, and I think the only way you can get it is lamarzulli.net. And she tells her story in there, but LA believes that the fallen angels are these alien entities are abducting people, but they are removing these embryos out of womb, or fetuses out of these wombs, and basically, I don't know, cooking them in these meat sacks, in the terms of Joel, these meat sacks to grow hybrid entities. It's I know it's far out there and crazy, but for me, it seems normal. Like I talk about stuff so much, it just is like, yeah.
I understand. I know, and it's not crazy to me because I have listened to and read so much from people like Dr. David Jacobs, who he had appeared, I don't know how many times on shows, programs like Coast to Coast, and I have played some of those episodes on the after hours programming on the website over the years. And what he called them were hybrids. They were hybrid humans, but alien. Whatever he was talking about, I don't know if he really conceptualized as to what they were and whether they were biblical entities or whatnot. But he was saying that there was a hybridization program going on, and specifically, he had been able to document quite a few compelling cases of just jacked pregnancies, like you were just talking about there. We're talking about confirmed pregnancies where there is just nothing left. It's gone after a while. And this is medically confirmed, just pregnancies that would disappear. And when I think about that and I think about all this uptick, and me and Jay Dyer, we would, there's been quite a few times over the last couple of years that we would get together and talk about the uptick in stories that would be published about mechanized reproduction methods, whether they be the artificial wombs, the latex sacks that you see all these little baby sheep and goats being, grown inside of these artificial wombs, or the fact that AI seems like it would be a really logical method of creating vessels through which something can inhabit it. And of course, when you think about the fact that AI is more and more being positioned to be merged with human beings through, Neuralink technology and anything else, it makes you wonder, what do you physically open up a human body to when you have now merged it with something that has network connectivity? I mean, it could be AI, it could be laboratory, Brave New World kind of stuff going on there, and of course the hybrid programs that I've been reading about for years. That doesn't make me feel any way, shape, or form like shocked. But let me ask you this, because when I think about this, and I'm sorry to the audience out there if you have to hear me ask this again, because I usually ask it for guests of your caliber. I'm always curious about the answer I'll get when we're talking about non-human intelligence from space, from parallel universes, or if you're just in the belief that there's, we're talking biblical narratives here. I have a really hard time grasping how our earthly governments have anything of value to trade or bargain with to even qualify us for gifts, whether they be technological or otherwise, from these entities. For instance, why would aliens or demons or angels, for that matter, need to negotiate with us to be able to take cattle or even to take people? I'd love to know what your thoughts on that is.
Yeah, I don't think they do.
Okay.
I don't think they do at all. If anybody feels like they struck a deal, I think it's just pure manipulation. And I think that how do you get somebody to cooperate with you on a spiritual level? Make them think that they're in control.
Yep.
Let them feel like they are in one step with it. So I don't think that they need to do anything of the sort. I think that any kind of deal striking, if it even happened, is purely manipulation. And I mean, imagine having a powerful world government that thinks it's working with you. Like that's a whole level of manipulation on a spiritual level that will affect an entire nation. Like you go for the head, not the toenail, And so I think it's a much more along the lines of trickery, manipulation, and like I said, if it even happened, having these world leaders believe that they are working with them. Like, man, like imagine being tricked to work with Satan.
I know.
That's what I think is if it happened, like, and because I don't know if it actually happened. I'm not saying I don't think it happened. I really don't know. I'm jury's out for me. But I definitely think if it did happen, it's pure, like, man, dude, like it's just another level of manipulation. That's how I view it, for sure.
I'm with you, because it's the one thing I could never. So many people fall back on that. There was a deal struck years ago, and like no, and that's why even the disclosure, all the talks about disclosure of hidden technology, whether it just be our own or of any kind of non-human origin, whatever the hell it is, wherever. I don't know, whatever Montauk chair we were plugged into when the schematics came through and we started building it. I don't know how anybody could look at this and say, oh, well, we've we've been striking deals with people. They're going to give us technology. We're going to give them. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. And the other thing there too is, oh well, we just want disclosure. We want disclosure. It's like, are you serious? You think that if there really is something that is, let's just talk about the idea of intergalactic space alien neighbors of ours. If they are coming here, they are at least 1 million years ahead of us in development. You think that an earthly media complex is going to be able to keep us from learning about them if they want to be seen? That's why I always come back to, I said, unless the entities are at the top of the hierarchy over here in this world, like someone like David Icke would suggest or anything like that, and the abductions and the disclosure phenomena is all just mind games to keep people rejecting everything. That it's the only thing that makes sense, that the so-called aliens are in control, that there is no negotiating with them, and it has to be something like that if it's something at all.
No, yeah, I absolutely agree. I think we're pretty easily manipulated. I've seen that a lot, just even in my own experiences, my own experiences with people, with my show. I've been manipulated on my show. I've caught people lying to me. And to think that, if you take that simple idea and you kind of blow it up as a whole, I think humanity is easily manipulatable because we have something that I think is deeply rooted in us, that we want to be gods. We want to be in control. We want to be in charge. We want to be the apex. And so when you can't be, but there's a third party involved that wants to make you believe you can be, it's very easy to just kind of fall hook, line, and sinker for that kind of thing. And I see it with a lot of people that are searching for meaning in this life. I talk to a lot of people, and you talk to people who are having interactions with entities, and like bona fide long-term entities relationships, and you hear them talking, and you hear the evolution in their story, where it starts out, not every case, but it can start out kind of like a scary situation, and then over time they become more and more comfortable, more and more desensitized, and then all of a sudden they're communicating with this entity, and this entity is saying, I'm here to help you. I'm here to help you ascend to the next level. I'm here to help you become whatever. And to me, when we're talking to, when we're holding relationships and long-term relationships with entities, and letting these entities instruct us, it makes me very, very nervous, because I just know the history of humanity, and we really do fall for these things time and time again. And some people can say that maybe that's me. That's me, in believing in God, an entity, the Holy Spirit, an entity, yeah, I do feel like there's just a lot of manipulation involved with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to change. I don't think it's going to change a whole lot. I think what we're starting to see is the spillover from the spiritual realm of manipulation into the physical, where our own physical governments and stuff are going to start utilizing this stuff to manipulate us. I wouldn't be surprised if UFOs and aliens becomes magnified on a level we can't even imagine this year. I think it's going to be used to their advantage, and whether it's real or not, I think that they could just spin it. So I mean, there could be definitely situations where things are actually happening, and they're talking about it and stuff, but they could also be making up situations. I mean, I've talked to people who, years ago, I think it was 2019, I had a guy on my show who had an experience where he was in our military, and he was sent on a mission. I don't know if it's I don't want to say it was a secret mission, but he basically was part of a team of people. Everybody had their job, and the scientists that he went out with, he's worked with before, his job was to collect data, and usually they would go out and do their job and come back, and it was just nothing out of the ordinary other than what they do. This time he described a situation where they were hiking, I think it was like a day or two journey into some kind of wilderness or something. They came in on a boat. He wouldn't tell me exactly where this happened, but he comes across their target, and he said this thing was nothing he's ever seen before. It was like a crashed UFO, only it didn't look like a saucer. It looked like I think he said it was like a school bus kind of thing with wings on the back or something. I can't remember exactly the details of it.
Jeez.
I just, in my head, I'm thinking of the image that the artist drew for the show. That's what I'm thinking about. But he said it was cold to touch, and the environment they were in was very hot. He said, but this object was cold to touch, and they got inside of it, and he starts collecting data, and well, he doesn't start collecting. He goes to attempt to start collecting data off this computer system, and it's covered in a language that he doesn't recognize, and he's going through his books trying to figure out what this thing is. And one of the scientists came over to him and said, "You're not going to find that language in there. Just get your stuff together. We got to get out of here." And he kind of just shrugged the guy off, and he's like, "Oh, whatever." And he keeps looking. And the scientist doubled down and slammed his hand on the book. And he's like, "Listen, you're not going to find that in there. Get your stuff together. We need to get out of here." And he's like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, that's Enochian language. And he's like, "What's that?" And he's like, "It's a demon language. Get your stuff. We're getting out of here." And so they got their stuff together. They used thermite, destroyed the craft, made their journey back. He talked about going through time warps, and I wasn't thinking like this back then, but nowadays I would venture to say dimensional shifts. Something was happening to him in real time that was not just this physical realm. And it scared him so bad that when he got out of the military, he left the country, and he still is in a different country. Like when I call him and stuff, he's hours ahead of me. And when I broadcast that show, it went pretty big, and he wound up getting visited by our government. And he got a lawyer, and the lawyer came with him to the meeting because the local police came to him and said that, you're being requested to come down to whatever precinct or whatever. And I forget all the details, but I remember him lawyering up, and they were asking him questions, but they couldn't really openly speak because he was in front. They had the lawyer there with him, but they were asking him questions like, do you ever plan on doing anything to harm the United States? And he's like, no. And that's all they ever bothered him. But it was after the episode aired, and now like that back then, like people were debating like this guy's lying and blah blah blah, and maybe people still do. I don't know. I don't read the comment sections. But nowadays, with everything that's coming out and stuff, it seems like everything that they're talking about is just confirming what my guest had said he experienced. So what is that? I mean, it was a physical craft that he went on, but it had Enochian language on it. Scientist says it was a demon language. It seems like we're dealing with something.
Is that what we're talking about? Like John D. The Enochian goes back to. Didn't John D. Lay out this and try to transcribe it?
Yeah, I don't know much about that. In fact,
it's all alchemy and stuff like that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. Tony, you because I have to take a break and go on intermission. I knew that this would be one of those things where we can probably go talk for another 3 hours. So this is going to take up the full 2 hours tonight. But I gotta say, and everybody please come and follow us over to pill.net or quite frankly.tv. It's 2 clicks. Don't miss out on this live show. But Tony, I cannot wait until you tell me when you start watching Twin Peaks, and I'll start watching it along with you, because. Okay. To think about the other aspect of this, where you have a meddling government, meddling with technology. In Twin Peaks, David Lynch starts going into the birth of the atomic age, and how there was some kind of a rip in space-time. There was a doorway, a portal that's opened, that entities with mixed intentions, both good and bad, are suddenly spilling over into where we are right here. And we, in our still very we think that we're at the top of the food chain over here, but in the greater scheme of things, we're very, very, very primitive, and we're really just at the mercy of whatever their intentions are. And I'm telling you, man, it's going to add a lot of what-ifery for you in your work. So, ladies and gentlemen, please, Tony, I'm going to put you on mute for a couple of minutes. It'll only be about 2.5 minutes, and we'll be right back with you. Ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do right now. follow us over to pilled.net or quitefrankly.tv. It's a couple of clicks. There's no paywall, nothing like that. And we will definitely premiere this over the weekend on the YouTube fully without any interruptions, things like that. And then there's going to be, it'll be archived all over the place, including podcasts. It's going as well as I thought it would and even better. And there's so much more to do. Follow us. I'll be there waiting for y'all. Be right back.
The rest of the show is available exclusively at pilled.net. Follow the link in the description of the episode, get signed up, it's that easy. Or head on over to quitefrankly.tv, just press play. No paywalls, no censorship, no strings attached. So head on over, quitefrankly.tv, powered by Foxhole, and pilled.net.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out to press the like button. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Quite frankly.
Quite frankly. Quite frankly.